I want to declare that I am not afraid of jail. I am proud of being prosecuted for my ideas. The handcuffs you put on me are a title of honor for me.
And when you say you feel sorry for the poor 94-year-old man, just imagine that he would have helped to murder your mother and father, your siblings, your whole family.
Justice doesn't expire. Not even when you're pushing 100 and pretending your past got lost with your teeth. Believe it or not, some Nazis from the Second World War are still being hauled into court. And yes, they're very old. But unfortunately, age hasn't softened them. Some still show zero remorse. Imagine being 101 years old, and still too stubborn to say, sorry. One recent convict looked the judge in the eye like he just got a parking ticket. Another complained prison would ruin his routine. And the wildest part? Some of them still deny the Holocaust ever happened. In this video we will look at these Nazi convicts and their unbelievable reactions to their prison sentences. Irmgard Furchner. Irmgard Furchner worked as a secretary at the Stutthof concentration camp during World War II. She worked for the camp's boss, Paul Werner Hoppe, from June 1943 to April 1945.
Through what she wrote, we analyzed all the documents which still exist from the concentration camp, and we searched for her signature and her initials.
In 2021, at the age of 96, she was charged with helping in the murder of 11,412 people and the attempted murder of 18 others. By December 2022, she was found guilty of being part of the murder of over 10,500 people. Her punishment was a 2-year suspended prison sentence, meaning she wouldn't actually go to prison unless she committed another crime.
I believe that it's very important for the survivors, but also for everyone today, that this trial ended with a verdict. I believe the sentence is adequate, but what's important is that there was a sentence in the first place which ruled that she's guilty.
Because she was only 18 at the time of the crimes, her trial took place in a juvenile court. Before the trial, she told the judge she didn't want to show up because she thought the process was degrading. Furchner admitted she worked as a secretary for SS officer Paul Werner Hoppe at Stutthof but claimed she never entered the camp or knew about the mass killings. On the day of her trial, she tried to run away. She left her retirement home, took a cab to a subway station and vanished for a while. The court even issued an arrest warrant. But she was quickly found, arrested, and released under certain conditions 5 days later. During her trial, she apologized, saying, "I'm sorry for everything that happened. I regret that I was in Stutthof at the time." But survivors who testified, some of whom passed away during the trial, painted a clearer picture. Evidence suggested that from her office she could likely see the horrible conditions of the camp, making it hard to believe she didn't know what was happening. Stutthof concentration camp, located near what is now Gdansk, Poland, was a place of unimaginable suffering. About 65,000 people died there, including Jews, non-Jewish Poles, and Soviet soldiers. Many were killed in gas chambers or died during forced death marches near the end of the war. In August 2024, Germany's Federal Court of Justice confirmed her conviction for her role in the atrocities committed at Stutthof. The next Nazi was a camp guard who was only convicted for his crimes in 2011. John Demjanjuk. John Demjanjuk was a Ukrainian-American accused of helping the Nazis commit mass murder during World War II. In 1942, the Germans captured him and forced him to work as a guard at several concentration camps. He trained at Troniki and was sent to Sobibor, Majdanek, and Flossenburg. Some evidence also suggested he was a brutal guard at Treblinka, known as Ivan the Terrible. After the war, Demjanjuk married and moved to the United States in the early 1950s. They settled in Ohio, where he worked as a mechanic, raised 3 children, and became a U.S. citizen in 1958. Things took a dark turn when Holocaust survivors identified him as Ivan the Terrible, based on an old visa photo. This kicked off a long legal battle and led to his U.S. citizenship being taken away in 1981. In 1986, he was sent to Israel to stand trial. He was found guilty and sentenced to death in 1988. But the Israeli Supreme Court overturned the conviction in 1993 because there were doubts about whether he was really Ivan the Terrible. Demjanjuk returned to the U.S., got his citizenship back, then lost it again in 2002. This time, Germany wanted him for war crimes. So, in 2009 he was deported to Germany for another trial. In 2011, a German court found him guilty of helping murder 28,060 Jews at the Sobibor extermination camp. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but because of his old age and bad health, he was released while appealing the verdict. He died in a nursing home the following year at the age of 91. The next Nazi was the bookkeeper who was convicted 71 years after his crimes. Oskar Groening. Oskar Groening was a German SS officer known as the bookkeeper of Auschwitz. During World War II, he worked at the Auschwitz concentration camp as an accountant and guard. His job was confiscating prisoners' belongings, counting their money, and sending it to SS headquarters in Berlin. But he also witnessed and took part in the mass killings happening there. Groening joined the Waffen-SS, the Nazi elite paramilitary group, in 1939 when he was just 18. From 1942 to 1944 he was stationed at Auschwitz helping the Nazis steal valuables from prisoners, most of them Hungarian Jews. He later admitted that he even pocketed some of the jewelry and money for himself. After the war, the British forces captured Groening and locked him up in a Nazi concentration camp before shipping him to the UK as a prisoner of war. There he worked as a farm laborer. In 1947 he returned to Germany and lived a quiet, normal life, avoiding the subject of Auschwitz for years. But in the mid-1980s something changed. Groening started speaking out against Holocaust deniers. He admitted his role at Auschwitz and acknowledged his moral guilt, hoping his words would be a warning to others. In 2014, German prosecutors charged him with being an accessory to murder for his part in the killing of 300,000 people at Auschwitz. His trial began in April 2015, and he was found guilty, receiving a 4-year prison sentence.
And when you say you feel sorry for the poor 94-year-old man, just imagine that he would have helped to murder your mother and father, your siblings, your whole family.
But Groening never served that sentence. He died in March 2018 at the age of 96. The next Nazi was the oldest person ever convicted of Holocaust-related crimes. Joseph Schutz. Joseph Schutz, known as Joseph S. in Germany because of privacy laws, was a Nazi concentration camp guard born in Lithuania. From 1942 to 1945, he worked at the Sachsenhausen concentration camp during World War II. He served as a guard in a watchtower and was a non-commissioned officer in the Waffen-SS.
The duties of a guard at this camp were many and various, but one of them was in this building, looking out on the camp, where you see all the barracks and what's left of them. Why? Because here the SS built a machine gun nest to look in on the inmates, because in the view of the SS, the inmates were the threat.
When the war ended in 1945, he was captured and held as a prisoner of war. After being released in 1947, he moved to East Germany and became a locksmith, living a quiet life. Fast forward to 2021, Schutz, now 100 years old, went to trial in Brandenburg, Germany, facing 3,518 charges of helping to murder people at Sachsenhausen. He claimed he was just a farm worker back then and denied everything. But documents and survivor testimonies proved he was there and had actively participated in the killings. The court learned Schutz had helped execute Soviet prisoners by firing squad and used poison gas, Zyklon B, to murder others. In June 2022, at the age of 101, Schutz was found guilty of helping to murder over 3,000 people during the Holocaust and was sentenced to 5 years in prison.
The court has sentenced the accused to 5 years in prison for aiding and abetting murder and attempted murder. The court was convinced, after having gone through the evidence, that the accused had worked for 3 years as a guard at the Sachsenhausen concentration camp and had supported the murders committed there through his activities.
Judge Udo Lechterman stated that Schutz had knowingly supported the mass killings and watched people being tortured and murdered daily for 3 years. Despite the conviction, Schutz remained free while waiting for his appeal. He continued to deny the charges, insisting he had nothing to do with the crimes and showed no remorse. On April 13, 2023, Schutz died at 102 years old. The next Nazi was only a teen when he joined the movement. Bruno Day. Bruno Day was a teenage guard at the Stutthof concentration camp near Gdansk, Poland, during the last months of World War II, from August 1944 to April 1945. He was 17 when he started and turned 18 while serving. Stutthof began in 1939 as a labor camp for Polish prisoners, but it later became a full concentration camp. Over 60,000 people, mostly Jews and political prisoners, died there from starvation, disease, forced labor, executions, and harsh conditions. By 1944, the camp was part of the Nazis' final solution, and had gas chambers and crematoria in operation. Day's job was to guard the camp, mostly from a watchtower where he was armed with a machine gun. He worked around 20 to 30 shifts, watching for escape attempts and helping maintain camp security. Prosecutors argued that by doing this, Day supported the camp's system of mass murder, making him responsible as an accessory. Atrocities at the camp included mass executions, deadly experiments, forced labor, death marches, and the use of crematoria. Day was charged with helping in 5,232 murders, the number of people who died while he was on duty, and one attempted murder. The case was based on a legal precedent from 2011, which said that being part of the camp's operation was enough to be found guilty, even without direct involvement in specific killings. Day's defense said he was just a low-level conscript who was forced into the SS, never shot anyone, and didn't fully understand what was happening at the camp. But prosecutors argued that guards like him were essential to keeping the deadly system running. Because Day was a minor during most of his time at Stutthof, his trial took place in a juvenile court in Hamburg. It started in October 2019 and lasted 9 months, with short sessions due to Day's poor health. Survivors, historians, and doctors testified. On July 23, 2020, at age 93, Day was found guilty of 5,232 counts of accessory to murder and 1 count of accessory to attempted murder. He was given a 2-year suspended sentence, meaning he wouldn't go to prison unless he committed another crime. The court said the sentence took into account his age, health, and the fact that he was unlikely to offend again. During the trial, Day expressed regret. He said he was deeply affected by survivor stories and wished he had run away from the SS. He admitted seeing starving prisoners and hearing screams but claimed he was mostly in watchtowers away from the worst atrocities. Survivors, however, described the horrors of life in Stutthof, starvation, disease, and public killings, contradicting his version of events. The judge acknowledged his remorse and cooperation but said continuing to serve after witnessing such cruelty made him responsible. Prosecutors had asked for a 3-year sentence, while the defense wanted an acquittal. In the end, all sides dropped their appeals in August 2020, making the conviction final. The next Nazi was found guilty of 170,000 counts of accessory to murder. Reinhold Hanning. Reinhold Hanning was a former Nazi SS guard at Auschwitz-Birkenau, the largest and deadliest concentration camp during World War II, located in Nazi-occupied Poland. At age 20, Hanning joined the Waffen-SS and later volunteered for the SS Death's Head Unit, which was responsible for running concentration camps. After being wounded on the Eastern Front, he was sent to Auschwitz, where he worked as a guard. He was promoted to junior squad leader and given more responsibility. His duties included guarding prisoners, manning watchtowers, and being present during selections, the process where new arrivals were either sent to forced labor or to the gas chambers. He didn't directly kill anyone, but his job made it possible for others to do so by keeping prisoners under control and preventing escapes. Hanning was involved during a major event known as the Hungarian Action, between May and July 1944, when around 437,000 Hungarian Jews were sent to Auschwitz. Most were killed soon after arrival. He was charged with 170,000 counts of being an accessory to murder, the estimated number of people who died during the time he worked at the camp. He admitted that he saw the smoke from the crematoriums, heard people screaming, and witnessed starving prisoners. Survivors testified that guards like him played a big part in keeping the camp's terrifying system running. During the trial, Hanning's lawyers said he was just a low-ranking soldier, didn't fully understand what was happening, and didn't have a choice. But prosecutors pointed out that he had volunteered for the SS, stayed at Auschwitz for over 2 years, got promoted, and never asked to leave. Survivor testimonies made it clear. Even if he wasn't killing people himself, he helped make it possible. Hanning stayed mostly quiet during the trial, but in April 2016 he gave a written apology. He said he was ashamed of what he had done and that he knew Auschwitz was a place of horror, but claimed he didn't have the power to change anything. His trial was held from February to June 2016 in Detmold, Germany. Because of his old age, he was 94 at the time, sessions were short and he appeared in a wheelchair. On June 17, 2016, the court found Hanning guilty of all 170,000 counts of accessory to murder and sentenced him to 5 years in prison. The judge said Hanning knew what was happening and played a role in the camp's cruel and insidious system. Some survivors felt the sentence was too light for the scale of the crimes. Due to health issues, Hanning remained free during the appeal process. He died on May 30, 2017 at age 95, before the appeal was completed, and never served time in prison. Enjoy this one? Click on the card showing on your screen for another one.